I'm David Pace with East Idaho News, and I'm here today with Bowen Bailey in St. Anthony and his father, John Bailey. Bowen recently returned from a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Alaska, and upon returning, he was diagnosed with a cantaloupe-sized tumor in his chest, which was making it hard to breathe. Bowen's here to share his story and let us know what's going on. So, Bowen, take it away. Tell us about what's happening and what you've been going through the last several months.
Yeah. Back in April, I was, yeah, like was mentioned, I was in mission, and I had just got transferred from North Pole, Alaska, to Kodiak Island. And because I was in North Pole, where it's really dry, getting moved to Kodiak Island, I didn't really think anything of it when my body was all of a sudden itchy and kind of sweating constantly because I just thought it was the humidity, and that was a normal thing for my body to try to be acclimating and trying to adjust to the humidity and to the new climate where I was at. Didn't really think anything of it. Um, but things continued to get a little worse, and I continued to kind of struggle to breathe. I remember we went on this one hike, and I climbed right to the top as best as I could, and it was really difficult to breathe. And we climbed to the what we thought was the top, but it wasn't. We made it almost halfway up, and then I said, "We got to turn around. I can't breathe anymore." We did. I didn't really think anything of it. I thought, well, I'm just an old missionary out of shape. But we then continued on, and my body just continued to be really itchy, and it really was uncomfortable to try to talk to people about the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so I I then, continued the mission, and as mission things happened, I got transferred from Kodiak Island to Anchorage, which was a perfect blessing because of the medical help that is not on Kodiak Island. I was able to receive the help that I needed in Anchorage when that time came. But I continued to just move forward and try to not really worry about my health. I figured the Lord will take care of me, and we'll just keep moving things forward. Um, but symptoms did not go away. So I went to the doctor, and they said, well, here we got some medicine that can basically shut your sweat glands all the way off. And they did that, and it was wonderful. I was like, oh, no more sweating. This is great. But because of that, it dang near dried my body completely out. So I was itchier than ever, because our skin needs moisture, and there wasn't any. Um, and so I just quit that medicine, and then it wasn't but 3 weeks later that I come down with a really terrible cold. And I am absolutely certain that Heavenly Father gave me that cold because He knew that I was too stubborn to go to the doctor and figure out what else was wrong. And this was the only way that was going to be possible for me to get home. He gave me that cold, and I just dealt with it, fought the cold. The runny nose went away, the body aches, the fever all went away. But I had this terrible cough, and this cough never would go away. And so finally, my companion said, dude, you got to go to the doctor. You keep keeping us up all night. And so,
I got to interrupt really fast. We had been telling him that he sounded like he had bronchitis and that he needed, when he would call in his P day, we're like, oh my gosh, you have got to set up an appointment to call the doctor.
yeah, they kept telling me to call the doctor.
Didn't
But,
listen to his parents, but he did listen to his companion, which was great.
well, when I'm keeping people up at night, I don't want to do that. But my parents did keep telling me to go to the doctor, and I'm too stubborn, and I guess I didn't. But I finally did go to the doctor, and they're like, the doctor was like, let's listen to your lungs. And they did all the normal things with their fancy stethoscope thingy. And then they like, let's get an x-ray. We think there's something in your lungs. They found it in my right lung. And they're like, there's something in there. Really, turns out nothing was in there, but there was a cantaloupe-sized tumor that was growing from the center of my body and pushing my whole right lung up against the sidewall of everything else. And so my lung was just a little tiny strip down the side when they did the x-ray. And so that's how they knew that something wasn't right. They thought it was maybe tuberculosis because of how it looked. And they're like, but if it's tuberculosis, we can definitely take care of it here in Alaska. But they're like, we need a CT scan. So that same day I went to the doctor. I went to the imaging place there in Alaska and got a CT scan. And the results came back and they're like, we are absolutely certain it's not pneumonia and it's not tuberculosis. And in order for us to know what it is, we have to get a biopsy. We have to go in there and take a little piece out. And so it was at that moment in time where I was like, well, this isn't good. And my doctor there in Alaska, he was a member of the church, very kind, and he's like, Elder, you are going home. You will be returning home so we can get this taken care of. And my mission president immediately started booking flights and trying to figure it out. And the mission president told me usually it takes 1 to 2 days to get a missionary's flight plans and everything booked and ready to go home and approved and all the things for medical reasons. And my mission president, when I was leaving that Sunday evening, he said, Elder Bailey, I just want you to know that, usually it takes 1 to 2 days for flight plans to get ready. But we had yours ready to go in an hour and a half. And I was like, that's just incredible to me. I'm absolutely certain that Heavenly Father worked his magic and did those miracles just because he cares about his children. Turns out I did stay a couple more days. So if it would have taken that extra couple days, it would have been fine. But my mission president had everything ready to go within an hour and a half of his phone call that said, you have an elder that has a mass in his lung.
And they required him to stay an extra day because they did a tuberculosis test, which is a 24-hour test. Which was good because we were on a recruiting trip for my other daughter in Oregon, and we wouldn't have made it home. We wouldn't have beat him home if we would have stayed for the full trip. And we were trying to figure out how to cut it short. And anyway, it all worked out.
It was all just intertwined perfectly, which was incredible. But we then come home and went to my home doctor, Dr. Tom Jones, and he's like, well, we need a biopsy. We need a piece of that tissue so that we know exactly what we're working with and how we can diagnose you. Okay, so what does that require? Well, we can either go through your throat and get it that way, or we can go and they can just stick a needle right through your ribs and through your lung and grab it that way. And it turns out that way was the only way basically to get that biopsy, because if they would have went and tried to go through my mouth and my bronchi and into my lung, they wouldn't have gotten anything because it wasn't actually in my lung. The tumor is on the outside of my lung. And so in order for them to get the biopsy, the only way they would have got the biopsy is doing exactly what they had done. And we had talked about doing other ways too. So Heavenly Father has just been intertwined with this whole thing, and he is very well aware and has been blessing me immensely the entire time. But we went and got the biopsy taken care of. That was a fun little procedure that I had done. And then they, 5-6 days later, diagnosed me with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which there's some other fancy words too.
Nodular sclerosis, Hodgkin's lymphoma.
I don't know how to say those, so I'll just stick with Hodgkin's lymphoma. But it turns out that if you're pulling a cancer card, this is the best cancer to have, if that makes any sense at all. It's the most curable. There's 90, 98, 99% chance of survival after 5 years. So basically, this is 100% curable. It's just going to take a little time and a little chemo to take care of it. So that's what we're working with now. The first round of chemo is in me, and today's probably my best day since I've had that treatment done.
Yeah, kicked your butt at the beginning.
It was, yeah, it was no good, but we're pulling through, and just very, very blessed and grateful for all I've been given. Everything that we experience and everything that we go through in this life, I am absolutely certain happens perfectly, even though we might think that it is happening, not even close to how we wanted it to happen. I thought I'd still be on a mission right now, but I'm home and everything is happening perfectly exactly how it's supposed to happen. So
So it
David,
sounds
you'll
like
have to ask him.
you got
Oh, go ahead.
released. Is that correct? After you came home
yep,
this month, or tell us a little bit about the timeline.
yeah, so October 10th is when I got home. And I was released a day later. No, that same day, a day later.
Yeah, David.
So
Next day on Monday.
Yeah, I'm no longer a full-time missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but as members of the church, we're supposed to always be missionaries. And so just because I'm no longer a set-apart missionary doesn't mean that I can't still be a missionary and help others come unto Christ, which is my full intention. I I can honestly say that I probably will not be going back to Alaska. I am pretty confident that this cancer is going to take up the next 6 to 8 months of my life, and I probably won't be going back to Alaska to finish the mission. But it doesn't mean that just not there is more than, if not just as much as missionary work that needs to be done and taken care of here in my hometown than there is in Alaska. So
You've been transferred to St. Anthony.
that's right. Back to home, the nicest word there is. Yeah.
Just a little longer flight.
We're grateful. We had kind of joked a little bit that if he hadn't come home when we saw the first imaging from a couple of weeks ago, that he would have at least another year or two of life if he never got treatment. And we were corrected by his doctor that what did he say?
No, that wasn't the doctor. We'll know more from the doctor this week. But we just asked the nurse. I was like, so if I wouldn't have got this taken care of and we wouldn't have started chemo and all the things, how long before I would have died? And they're like 5, 6 months, maybe that long. I'm like, goodness, I wouldn't have even lasted the rest of the mission.
So a little bit of shock to us. We were like, oh wow, this is
crazy.
Yeah.
But
So it's a good thing you got transferred.
it's a very good thing. Yeah. I'm very fortunate to be home back here where there's beautiful medical help. I'm very grateful for the doctors that have taken care of me. So.
And you've been going to the Huntsman Center at Madison Hospital, is that correct?
Yep. So just the Cancer Care Center, they're at Madison Memorial, and they have Huntsman representatives and a Huntsman doctor that comes up. I don't know how often, but there is a Huntsman representative there that works there. Her name is Dr. Leslie Goulding, and she's awesome. Takes great care of me, and so do all the nurses there. Yeah, it's a wonderful. It's a terrible process, but I'm very blessed and grateful for all the wonderful people that have taken care of me. So.
How rare is this type of cancer? Is it unusual, and do you know what might have caused it?
I have absolutely no clue what caused it. There's always possibilities for anything, but I'm not going to say any because I don't know. I don't know what could have caused it, and I quite frankly don't care what caused it because I'm supposed to go through this. And because of that, I'm very grateful. Is it going to be fun going through it? Absolutely not. It's probably going to be the hardest thing that I've ever done. And before this was the mission, the hardest thing I've ever done. But I'm very grateful for the experiences that I'm going to go through. Even though they're not going to be fun, they will certainly make me the best version of Bowen Bailey that Bowen Bailey can be. So.
Bowen, you've got younger siblings, don't you? Brothers and sisters?
I do, yep.
How are you pulling together as a family to take on this challenge?
Oh, they take real good care of me. There's right after chemo, there's always a few down days. Days that are not, our body is, I mean, when you get chemo, it's basically pumping 4 bags of poison straight into your body, into your bloodstream, and putting it perfectly blunt. So my siblings and my parents they just do an extremely incredible job of taking care of me. Um, I couldn't ask for any better support crew or helper crew, really. They feed me when I need fed, and they do my laundry, do my dishes, they do all the things. I'm very blessed, very fortunate to have them. But it has been very cool to just see, from a year ago when I left on the mission till now, how they have just all grown and really do pull together as a family. It's pretty incredible to watch.
Bowen, how has the community responded? Both your friends and the people you served in Alaska, as well as the people here at home in St. Anthony in Eastern Idaho.
Words can't really describe how a community responds to. For me, it's just a little incident, but I guess it's a little bigger than that when the whole community is involved. So I'm just extremely grateful. I don't really know how to describe how grateful I am. Um, I'm gonna get a little teary-eyed, but it just can't can't describe how grateful I am for all the friends in the community and my friends and friends in Alaska and prayers. My goodness, prayer is a real thing. If anybody tells you prayer don't work, you better think again, because I'm absolutely certain it's the only thing that's carrying me through this right now. I don't know how else to describe it, really. I'm just very grateful, very blessed to live where I live with the people I live around. They're absolutely an inspiration to me. Just their care and their kindness. It's incredible.
I would add to that, David, that yeah, like when we found out and we kind of organized a fast, friends and family and community and strangers and everybody, his entire mission fasted for him. Like it was just remarkable how people would reach out to us or find out about it and say, we're joining, we're helping, we're praying. When you have that many hundreds of people, thousands of people petitioning God for help, we feel it. And we knew that we were going to get through it. It's going to work out. It's going to be hard.
There's lots of times people say, how are you feeling? How are you responding to the news? Well, I don't feel any different than I did before. I feel just the same. And I'm absolutely certain it's because prayers are literally carrying what would normally be a deep dive down, but just keeping it nice and level. And Heavenly Father's really taking care of me. And I'm very blessed and fortunate for all the help I've been given.
I was talking to your friend Jacob Dahl just briefly before this interview, and he said that even during the week after you were first diagnosed, the tumor grew another 20%. Is that correct?
I don't know. I don't know that we have any. I don't know.
We don't know the percentage. What we do know is that when we see the scan, when we see the scans in 3 weeks, because he just had his they call it a PET scan, a PET scan, where they take some radioactive sugar and that really lights up basically what would be considered a CAT scan. All the places in his body where this lymphoma is hanging out and residing.
And we don't, like my dad said, we don't know a percentage exactly. It could have been 20%, I don't know. But what we do know is that it grew from one size cantaloupe up into my other lymph nodes up by my collarbone. And so
whatever capacity he had in his right lung got mostly squeezed out and pushed out. So
yeah,
we just don't know exactly, but it was significant.
It did grow within the week I was diagnosed.
Yeah, very aggressive.
Yeah. Which is exactly why they're treating it so aggressively. Like in 2 weeks, All my hair will probably dang near be gone, but that's all right.
We'll be twinners in our hairstyle.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you're gonna match.
Yeah.
It's all good.
So
We'll have to shave off our heads too. Support you. So, so as you look at recovery, what's this process going to be like, and how can the community support you as you go through this?
just keep praying. That's the best thing I can say. I'm a pretty stubborn person. I really am. Um, but when it comes to the Lord's blessings, man, I can't really be stubborn when the boss is in charge. So I'd say just prayers work. Our Savior Jesus Christ is certainly real. He is certainly living as well. So when it comes to support from the community, um, prayers. I know it might seem like the smallest thing, but in reality, it's a lot bigger than one would think.
The other
As
thing,
far as
David, I would
symptoms, how are
say,
you doing? Can you breathe a little bit better than you were experiencing, or is it about the same?
Oh, it's about the same. Well, chemo hasn't really. I mean, it's doing its job. I'm certain of that. But as for being able to tell a difference yet, there isn't one really. The sweating's kind of gone away. It's kind of subsided, and I think that's because I'm not real stressed here at home.
Yeah.
Pretty low maintenance. For the mission was a little more intensive on the body. But as for symptoms, I'm confident after this first round of chemo and I start the second, it will they'll dang near disappear and that cancer is going to shrivel up a lot faster than one would think.
so the regimen is that he does a chemo treatment, which usually is what, 3 to 4 hours of sitting in and getting several bags of chemo,
Yeah.
different types, lots of, and they're trying to be really aggressive with how they do that. That happens every other week, and they do that for a 2 month period. So he gets 4 treatments in 2 months, and then they do another scan, and they want to see what's shrunk, what's grown, any changes, and then they do another 2 month round, and they go through 4 more treatments, and then they'll do another scan. And so we will follow that until he's basically cancer free. As big as it is, we were told that it would be at a minimum 4 months, and most likely probably be closer to 6. But there's a chance that he will be 8 months of treatments. They just don't know and won't know until they see how this responds. Fortunately for us, Hodgkin's lymphoma is the more common type of lymphoma, and that's the one that's had the most treatment, research, whatever done on it. And the medicines that they have are quite effective at reducing and making those go away. So we're very grateful for all the people that have pioneered and gone before and done all of that. It's just a truly a blessing. We live in a pretty neat time.
Excellent. So it looks like you have a bright future ahead of you. You're pressing forward, and you've still got faith and optimism and hope, and you're doing the right thing. So
Absolutely.
what is the message that you can share with others who either are going through a similar experience or who just want to reach out and be there for you?
Don't quit ever, and always give your 110%. I told my buddies before I left on the mission, there's like, Elder Bailey, is there any words of advice you'd give us? I said, absolutely. You work as hard as you can, and you work as hard as you can all the time, because in the blink of an eye, it could all be over and you could be jumping on an airplane to go home. Just never quit. Always keep working as hard as you can. There's going to be more days than good days that are bad. But in the end, the good days every time, I'm certain, will outweigh the bad days. There's just this whole experience has been a nice roller coaster ride. I'm very grateful to my Father in heaven, especially. It's just a nice journey. We're all we're all going to get dealt the hard card at some point. But one thing that I've learned in this life is that there's no re-deal. And so we best just look at our hand, the best knowledge we got, and play the game. And whatever outcome happens will certainly every time work out how it's supposed to.
Excellent. Is there anything else that you would like to add that the community should be aware of at this time?
Thank you for all the support, all the love. Sometimes missionaries come home and it's not a fun home welcome feeling for them. That I am certain has not been the case for me. I felt more love in the past 3 weeks than I have in a long time. Not saying my parents don't love me, but just the amount of love that I felt is just incredible. I'm very grateful to this community that I live in. I live in a very, very blessed town.
Yeah, we've truly been blessed, and it's been a little bit of a challenge, knowing that people want to help and want to serve and want to give and want to do anything. We would regularly have people reach out from on social media and past friends all over the country, family, community members. What can we do? What can we do? And we've always just said, well, pray. And that we trust in that.
That's the best thing to do. Just keep praying.
It'll
all be just fine.
Yeah, and we also recognize that I was told don't deny the blessings for other people that want to give and serve and help in other ways. And so a crazy friend of mine did reach out and said, hey, I want to put this thing together. And that was certainly generous and kind. And there's been some amazing people contribute. And it'll all help. But at the end of the day, we trust that it'll all figure it out and we'll work through it. And we're just immensely grateful for having Bowen with us, and that we hopefully get to have him be feeling better within the next 8 to 10 months. So
you've got almost a year's journey ahead of you, at least 8 months, 6 months, 10 months, whatever it takes, right? Hopefully 4.
Well, something like that. I'm hoping to have it before planting season. We'll see what happens.
Bowen's a big farmer, so he's ready to get back in the tractor. It's hard for Bowen to sit still, so he's got to be out doing, and we're proud of him for how hard he works. And I have to tell you that it was a little bit embarrassing for me as a dad when he would call us, and I could just tell that something wasn't quite right, and I knew that I suspected that he was a little homesick, for a big chunk, because he was initially, but I think that kind of went away. The hard part is he went out with this, and it grew a lot while he was out there, and we didn't realize that along the way, and so I thought he was just homesick, dealing with some mental challenges. Turns out he was giving it all he had, like as a normal missionary, trying to deal with all the stuff while battling cancer on his own, and super proud of him. He's just done an amazing job. So we're trying to repent of our mindset.
They've repented of all the care they take care of me. They're just fine.
Absolutely. Bowen, are you 19 right now?
I am, yep.
Perfect. So that's pretty young to be facing this challenge, but you're taking it head on, and you've got a smile and a bright face and optimism, and
absolutely
you're cheering for you.
Yep, I'm ready for it. Bring it on.